Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 29 of budget crafting. Today I'm going to make a slow stitch Christmas card. Um, I'm just, I really thought I would never be into any kind of stitching, and I also thought I would never be into journal making, and once I started I couldn't stop, and I'm really finding the stitching very fun. My mother was a quilter and she hand quilted all of her quilts, and I just thought that sewing of any sort really was kind of not my thing. I really am loving this. So I thought I'm going to make a Christmas card and I'm going to slow stitch it. So I thought that's what we're going to do this week, because it's a craft that you can do fairly reasonably. Scrap material, you need a little bit of floss, but floss is pretty cheap. You can go to Walmart and, just get the little skeins of floss, and it's not really very expensive. So what I've done is I just have a regular square card from Michaels, and so I pulled that out. And I don't really like the, hold on. Grab my corner punch. I don't really like the totally square corners, but I don't want them real rounded either because I want my patch to be square. So I'm just going to kind of just a little tiny nip to make them not just so bluntly square, because I really just don't, I don't know why, but I don't care for that. Alrighty, so I've got my card ready to go then. And then what I did was I took some muslin. This is just plain old muslin, which is a real cheap fabric. And what I did was I just kind of held my card up there, said, okay, I want it a little smaller than my card, and I ripped it. And now I need to get the other way. And instead of doing any measuring or anything, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this top side and fold it down evenly on the side so that I know exactly where that's going to make a square now. So I know exactly where I'm going to need to rip it next time. So just a little tiny nip in here, and then give it a rip. And then just go ahead and take off a few of the threads. You've got the extra thread you want out of your way, and then you can make your fringe as long as you want your fringe to be. So I'm going to not have it super, a whole ton of fringe on the outside edge, just a little bit all the way around. So now I have that, and then I thought I really kind of want it to be a little bit puffy. So I have this, it's called Craft and Quilting Fleece. Now you're probably not going to find this exact same thing. I'm really not sure exactly like where it came from. I know I got it at a garage sale or yard sale or secondhand store or something a long time ago, and it's just a flat piece of fabric. Now, if you don't have any of that, you can just use regular fleece like they use for blankets. You can use quilt batting. You can use a piece of felt, just from the craft store, a piece of felt, and just cut it to your size, a little smaller. So it doesn't have to be anything special. That's what I just had here. So I just have a piece of it, and I want it to be a little smaller than my outside. So I'm just going to, kind of cut it here, hopefully to get a bit of a straight line there. And then does that seem maybe just a little bit smaller? Okay, so this is going to be the height and the width of my piece. So I'm again going to just do the same thing I did with the other, with that, to give myself a square to fit underneath. Except this one I'm not going to rip, I'm just going to cut it. Okay, so now I want this to be under here, and kind of make sure it's a little square. Put this here and see how it looks. Do I need to trim anything off? And I'm thinking I need to trim this side just a touch more. Now, I already threaded my needles just because sometimes I have such a hard time with that. And I think this video is going to already take a while, so I didn't want to take a ton of time out of the video to be threading needles. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Christmas ball on here. And so I know it's going to be in the middle. I'm going to just come up here in the corner. Be careful because that stretched my fabric. So I want to put the fabric back where it was because this is really sticky. So when I did that, I just want to keep my fabric as square as possible so it's not all cockeyed. There we go. Check that out on this side. Okay, that'll just kind of hold it a little bit, but the glue won't be in my way. So we don't need the card right now because we're just going to stitch on this. I am going to use my masking tape to make a circle on here. I'm going to just kind of try and make sure that I'm centered as best as possible. And I want a little extra room at the top because I need to put, you know, the hanger for the bauble on the top. And I'm going to use a permanent marker to trace my circle. Now, what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll backstitch that black. I'm going to do that at the very end if we have time because, you know, that's just something that's an easy stitch. And so what I want to do is I want to make, I'm trying to find a pencil. I forgot to grab a pencil. And I don't see one. So now I have to decide. I guess I'm just going to kind of guess at it. But I'm going to do the top, you know, the hanger part. Now, I have 3 strands of floss, this type of floss. And so they come in 6 strands. So I just separated it into 3. I thought that 6 would be just a little too thick. So I'm just going to come up at the top. I do have a knot tied in the end of my floss, and I do not have it doubled. It's just 3 strands. A lot of times I like to double my thread just to keep it all on there so I don't pull it off the needle all the time. But for this, that would just make it too thick. So I'm going to say if I come up there and go down over here, that would be about the right size. So because this is the, you know, the hanger, it's kind of like a rectangle. So I just went up and down, and I'm just going to do that again right next to it and just go across to where I want to end. And so this is just a plain old, like, straight stitch. Just come through the back and right back down through the front. And when we get as far as we think that we need to go, then we'll just go across the top. Oops, dropped it. I am really loving the slow stitching. I actually found out that I liked it when I went to my husband's doctor's appointment and I grabbed a kit that I had. So I had something to do, and I sat there and was slow stitching while I was sitting there just because it was something to do. And it's what I had handy to take with me. And so I sat there for like an hour, and the hour went by really fast. And I just really enjoyed trying to figure out what to do next, what kind of a stitch to try, and realized that, well, I really do like it. So there we go. I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, ooh, do I need one more? I think that I need maybe one more. I don't want it to hang crooked, you know. So yeah, so we might do a few of these slow stitch things here and there. I don't know. I'm not a real chatty person. There, now to me that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is, because I just went right back down this hole, I don't want to come back up right there. So I'm going to go over to the other side. I waste thread. I just do. And so I'm going to go maybe like every, don't do every one. No, I'm going to do 2. Okay, so that's just a regular stitch there. Now I'm going to do a back stitch. I'm going to go over 2 and come up at the top. So back stitches, you just go further than you want to be. And I don't know how to explain these things. And then you go backwards to where you came from. And then it fills in that area without going through the same hole. Because if I were to come up again right where I just went down, the thread would just very possibly come through the fabric. So I'm going to go over 2 more of those stitches. I want to come up right where I went right down the hole so that it's all even. So I'm going to come up there and then go back down right there. And there we go. So we've got the straight stitch and we did a back stitch. And that back stitch is what I'll do around the edge when I am done. So I won't be doing it at the end no matter what, because I just realized I didn't pull out any black embroidery floss, and I'm not really sure where black embroidery floss is. So, okay. Well, that just got kind of all knotted up as I was knotting it, but that's okay because I'm done. I'm going to take that off. Now, this needle is just a needle with a big eye in it. A couple of them they're just called large gold eye needles. And again, you know, you can see how old this is. It came from I actually think that this was my mother's. But they were just some needles. They have a gold top and they have a big eye in them. And so you can just look at, and it says it's for wool, yarn, straw, silk, and heavy thread, which your embroidery floss would be a heavy thread. So, but just keep your eyes open, and when you see them at a secondhand store, or if you need to go buy some, you'll know exactly what you're looking for. All right, so now I want to do gold in the middle, and across the middle I want to do the slow stitching. I want to divide this in, I'm going to just divide it into 3 pieces like that. So I'm going to start at the top with the red, and I am going to do like the cross sticks, like a cross stitch X. So basically I'm just going to come up, and they don't all have to be the same size because I'm not using like cross stitch fabric and, you know, doing anything precise. The thing about slow stitching, so that's just a straight stitch. Now I'm going to come over to this side and come up a little bit away from that stitch, and right at the middle point, just go up and then cross over about the same distance as what I did over here. And then it makes a little X. And so I'm going to basically just do that all over the top and then do a different type of stitch in the middle. But there's the one thing that I like about slow stitching versus like maybe if I did an embroidery kit is with embroidery, you know, there are real specific things to do. And you have to follow the instructions, which, you know, when I'm crafting, I just want to just do what I feel like doing. I don't really want to do, you know, the embroidery kit because I want to use what colors I want to use, and I want to, you know, like not worry if my stitches, because, you know, like I've seen really beautiful cross stitch, and I'll tell you, those stitches are like perfect. And, you know, they're just, you know, they're all the same size, or, you know, I don't want to have to do that. You know, I want to make them all different sizes just because I don't want to have to worry about it. I don't want to have to think, is this exactly 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch? And is this other side exactly 1/8 of an inch? And I just want to just sit down. And that's, I think, why I'm liking it. I did realize that when I was at the doctor's office, this makes a good evening craft when you're just sitting and watching TV, but you want to keep your hands busy. which is another reason that I don't like things to be so specific. I can just sit and do this, and I don't have to worry about it. You know, I can watch TV. I can, chat with my husband. I'm not, like counting how far I need to go, or trying to find what's the next color thread I need to use, that type of thing. I can just sit and do it. And so that's, I think, what is the most enjoyable to me about it, is that I can just do it when I want and where. I did find that it was a great craft to take with me. So because like I have a craft bag if we go away, which has pretty much everything in it. But that craft bag is huge. I wouldn't like take that into a doctor's appointment or something, because like I said, it has everything in it. It's something that you would want to set out and open it up and everything gets spread out. So this is a nice thing that you can have a very little bit of stuff with you at the time and still really be able to create something. So, and I'm not the best chatter, so if you're kind of thinking you're saying the same thing over and over again, yeah, that's what I do. So now my threads, my second part of thread is getting really close, so I'm going to go ahead and extend that out a bit so that I don't accidentally keep going right where it's doubled and then have to take it all out again. That's part of the reason I don't like sewing, is, like sometimes you do something. When I was a teenager in high school, we had to take different type of home ec classes, and sewing was one of them. And so I took sewing, and I made this wraparound shirt that was just, all the rage at that time. And so it wrapped all the way around you and like tied together on your side. And you had to put like seam binding or bias tape or something. I think it was called bias tape. All the way around. It went from one hip all the way up the shirt, around your neck, all the way down across your front, and all the way to the other hip. That was the wraparound part. And so I sewed it on there. I started at one end, went all the way, the tape is like this wide. And so I sewed all the way up one side and got to the other side. And then I started right there, and I sewed all the way up and around back to where I started. Well, the whole thing shifted like this because I went one way with one thread and the other way with the other thread. The whole thing shifted. It had to be about at least 3 feet long, that piece of bias tape that went all the way around. And I had to sit there and I had to pull all of those stitches out. And right then and there, I really decided I did not like sewing. And I fixed it and I did okay. I don't think I ever really wore that shirt. I think I wore it once. I really despised that shirt after that happened. It was like, yeah. And that was just not my thing. And then probably, I was a teenager. So, you don't want to do your mom's craft. You want to do some other kind of craft. But my mother was a wonderful sewer. She could sew clothes. She sewed clothes for our kids, her grandchildren. She used to sew them shorts and t-shirts and all sorts of things. And, those are, you see the pictures of the kids out playing and everything with those on, and it just makes them even makes the pictures more special. So we're already quite a ways into this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stop right here, and I'm just going to let that hang, and hopefully it won't get in my way. And I'm going to do, for the center section, I just want to do plain old slow stitching, and I'm going to do that in gold. And so let me see. I think I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to do a plain old straight stitch, really, is what I should say, not plain old slow stitching. And you can put all of this in I'm not so sure. Normally I just go in and out. I'm not sure what that bad is behind there, how that seems to be working okay. I thought it might not work and I might just have to go in and out. Yeah, there we go. And I figured the straight stitch across the middle would basically give me, you know, the line. I guess maybe I should have even started here. It gives me the line to have my top and my bottom to fill in. But there we go, just back and forth and back and forth. I'm even going to go right back down, right next to the edge, and not worry about whether they're the same size or not. You can do like all really big stitches and then all really small stitches, you know, however you want to do it. I'm going to kind of offset them, so I'm going to go down at the beginning of this stitch and then come back up at the end of that stitch, approximately. And that will make my stitches be just the opposite. So, and then I'm going to go down at the beginning of the next stitch and up at the end, down at the next one at the beginning and up at the end. So when I pull that through, I think this needle has glue on it from some other project. See, now they're kind of offset like that. And you can, if you want to make them all like exactly the same size, you can be very careful and do that. You don't have to mark them out or anything. You can just, you know, really pay attention, and, you know, you'll get the feel of it after a while. My mom used to hand quilt everything, which is, you know, this is like quilting, except a quilting stitch is very tiny, really tiny. But in her stitches were all the same size. I'm going to just go back down. And I'm actually right out there on the edge because it's so close. And then, let me see, I don't know if I want to do one or two more of these. But we're just going to, and again, this one I'm going to do just the opposite of the row above it. And of course, the straight stitch is a really quick stitch, but it really gives you really nice interest on different projects because, you know, you can do so many different sizes of it. You know, it feels like, well, it's just a straight stitch. So, well, you know, but no, it is just a straight stitch, but it's being to do different sizes, and then you can go in different directions. You know, put them on an angle. Well, that was the first time that I got caught up in the red thread, so that was pretty good. I forgot it was there. And I'm going to do another one. So let's see here. I'm actually just going to come right over here because that's where I want my next stitch to be. And then we're going to go to, I really think I should, we'll look at it when I'm done. Kind of wondering if I really should do like 5 rows. You know, the odds attract the eye. And so should I do 3 or 5 rows, or is 4 going to be okay? We'll look at it as soon as I'm done here and we'll see. Won't take that long to put in 1 more row. And I think we do need to do 1 more row. So I'm going to just go down next to that stitch, making sure I don't go through the same hole, or otherwise I'll just pull it right through. And we'll do 1 more row. But yeah, I hope that if you play around with this that you have a good time. And just relax and enjoy it. Sometimes the holidays can actually be kind of stressful, so, you know, this can be something that you can do to maybe relax and keep your hands busy, maybe keep your mind busy. But, you know, I do have to say that something like this, it doesn't take as much thought as some other crafts, but it is very relaxing, so I still think that it's very good. So there, that looks really good. I think that this needs to be a better stitch. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to put a real stitch in there. I don't know how I wound up getting that so small. So there we go. And I like that. I think that looks good. So I'm going to tie that one off and be done with it. And then we're going to do a stitch that I am not very good at. So we'll have to see how it turns out. But it's one of my favorites. I learned how to do this from Sonia. Sonia Steptoe has a lot of stitching tutorials. And that's actually where I really started to think it looks fun. I might like to try that. Was by watching her different videos. We did quite a long time ago. She did Twinchies and like a 2x2 piece of fabric and did a different stitch or a different type of embroidery stitch on it. All right, so for the French knot, you're going to come up and then you're going to hold your thread, take your needle, and wrap the thread around your needle however many times. I'm going to do like, because I've got 3 strands of floss here, the thicker it is, the less amount of wraps you do. And the more wraps you do, the bigger it will be with the same thread. So I'm going to do like 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of push them together. Don't make them super tight. And you want to go right back down in the hole, right next to the hole where you just came out of. And you want to hold your thread with this hand. And then you want to pull your needle through. Now, to do this French knot, this is a really bad needle. And because the eye is bigger than, maybe I just got it too tight. Let's kind of try and let it loosen up a little bit. But the eye is bigger than the needle, I think. So then you just pull that through, let go of the thread, and it grabs it, and it makes a little knot. I'm going to look at this. The eye is a little bit bigger than the needle, but not that much. So I must have just had it too tight. So we're just going to try it again. And so I'm going to hold my thread out here and wrap it around my needle, or wrap the needle around the thread. Either way, you can take the needle and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and move the needle, or you can move or wrap the thread around the needle. Either way, go right down by the hole, holding this thread. And yep, I do believe that the eye of my needle is just a little bit too big, and that's causing problems. So it really is if you make your thread too tight, but I really didn't try and pull it that tight that time. I tried to leave it kind of loose, and the eye still doesn't want to go through there. So that's something to look at if you want to do the French knot. I'm supposed to be holding this thread, so I've just made a big mess here. I'm not sure if it will come back or not. We'll see. Looks like it's gonna, and it did. Okay, so there we go. I really love the French knots, but I can fill in this whole bottom with French knots, fill in this whole top with X's. And I think what I'm going to try and do is, let's see. I'm going to try maybe using this one. I think that the eye might be a little bit smaller than that one. And again, try and make sure that I don't pull it too tight. There we go. All right, so let's try it again. Come up here. And hold my thread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of squinch it together, get that. Put your needle right back by where you came out. I'm supposed to be holding this thread right here. And pull it through. That was a little bit easier. I probably just pulled a little too tight, but there. So they're really fairly easy to do once you get the hang of it. But while you're trying it, I can't tell you how many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to count. how many times I really messed it up. And I think a lot of it has to do with forgetting to hold this thread down. But, you know, like I would pull it and like it would just go through and there wouldn't even be a knot there. There would just be like a stitch. So, or really getting this way too tight around the needle, so there was absolutely no way that I could pull the needle through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that this was one of my favorite stitches. I think I lost one. When I first started, it was the one I wanted to learn because it was the one that looked like I could do it, but it really looked, I don't want to say that, it really looked like a real embroidery stitch, you know? There we go. You know, to me, this is just a regular stitch, and even that's kind of a regular stitch. But the French knots, they were cool. You know, they kind of pop up off the fabric more, and I just thought that they were cool. So 2, 3, 4, 5. See, and I just let it come off my needle, so I'll start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it there, hold on to that thread. And I don't know if I said this or not, but you might find it easier to put it in. I definitely made that too tight. There. So I just kind of like loosened my grip and everything and kind of moved the needle around to try and loosen that thread up, and it worked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops. There we go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually, if you don't have any black to go around the edge, that's a permanent marker. You don't have to, it's a card. So if you don't want to go around the edge, you don't have to. You know, it gives you the same, really when you look at it, it's hard to tell that this is just ink and that this is fabric. Now when you touch it, you can tell that. But so, you know, you can always just leave that circle edge just like it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the hardest part about these videos is this is the type of video that would be a good video to chat on, but I'm not a good chatter. I don't have a lot going on, although I actually am getting back out in the world now a little bit, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe someday I will have things to talk about. Although we did also we just had our grandson here and our daughter for Thanksgiving. And we did get together with the whole family, which we weren't able to do last year. And so that was really nice since it's been a while. And I think everybody brought a dessert or a snack or something, because my brother did pretty much the whole dinner. He did the turkey and the potatoes and squash and stuffing and all that kind of stuff. And my brother and his wife, I should say. We went to my brother's house. But, and they do cook together. It's very nice. Oops, pulled it off of there. So now when you look at these, see, this one is, it didn't really come out, but it wound up getting bigger, and so did this one. And so these ones are more perfect. Well, then nothing's perfect, but more like they're supposed to look. And these ones are a little bit off, but that's okay. I wouldn't want to take them out because that's what slow stitching is all about. It's all about just going ahead and doing it and enjoying it. You know, if I had totally lost it, well, then I lost it and I had to put another one there. But that one's okay. It's its own individual dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to finish the red here, and I'm going to finish the green here, and then I will be back, and then we'll get our card made. So be back in just a sec. Okay, I am back, and I have my slow stitching all done on there. I have decided I'm not going to go around the circle. It looks good. It is a Christmas card, and I just really didn't feel like it, so I didn't do it. Now, a lot of times with slow stitching, they add other things too. Now, there was a little bit I wanted to, I was looking at this on the card, and I thought, well, I really think that definitely I need to edge the card. So I'm going to do that with worn lipstick. I figured I would just do it with a red since we're at Christmas time here, even though red is not my favorite color. And that's a nice way to say I don't like red. But I have to say I've used more and more red, and I think I'm starting to get a little bit used to it. Because sometimes you just have to put it in your repertoire and try it, and then you will get used to it. All right, so a little bit of red around the edge, and let's see how that looks then. So that does look better, but I also thought maybe I would dye the edges of the fabric, because the fabric is cream and the card is cream, so I thought that would kind of give it some definition. So this is the scary part. I have tried. I tried a piece that I ripped off of there, and I liked the green better than the red. And so, fingers crossed I don't totally mess it up. But this is just a plain old kid's marker and some water. And then go ahead and squish 2 pieces of plastic together. These are just some kind of a plastic file folder that I had got at the Dollar Tree. Any plastic, even a plastic Walmart bag will work. And then that just kind of makes it more of a watercolor. And now I am just going to press down the edges. And because it moves all around, I only have a little bit of color on there. So I'm going to, go to the places where that has gone. And for some reason, this fabric seems to, so there we go. That edge looks good. It doesn't really absorb the color really well, which is really surprising, because to me, I've always kind of thought muslin was more of a, like, it is a cotton as far as I know, so I thought it would be very absorbent. There we go. I think that one looks good. Maybe a little bit in this corner right here. Yeah. Just give it a little extra interest because it was so plain. A little bit more. Okay, and I'm kind of running out of color on this one. So I'm just gonna wipe that off with an extra piece of fabric, because that'll just take that color and be able to use it for something else. And then I'm gonna go ahead. Now this is black. Sorry, I pulled out a black one, so you can't really probably see it on there, but it's there. I can see where the water is, or where I should say the color is kind of pulled up a little bit. So I want some right in there. And I could have done the whole piece of fabric like before I even started the slow stitching. I didn't think about it at the time. But I think I kind of like this, just framing it in with the color. And it makes it stand out just a little bit more. So there we go. I think I like that. Alrighty. Get rid of that. And, all right, so now we've got that pretty much ready to go, except I thought maybe I would add just a little bit to it as far as I found, I got this little jar of sequins at, like the Salvation Army or something a long time ago, and I noticed that it has some like little, well, it has some big snowflakes in it, but then when I started to dump them out, it had these really big ones, which to me it was just a little too much. I just wanted something, just something small. Although now that I've got the color, let's see how they stand out. Because now I have these little snowflakes. I'll pick it up in just a second. These are just small snowflakes. And then also a couple of little sequins, like for my chain coming down for the top of the bauble. So I thought that the smaller ones looked better, but they're cute little snowflakes. And then I thought if I line these up on here, you know, that would look like a chain coming down to hold the bauble up. So I'm going to do that really quick before we put it on the card. And that's actually all we have left to do, is to put those on and then glue it to the front of the card. Now here's the back. And the back gets very messy, and that's totally fine. You know, I mean, nobody's going to see the back. So I am going to, now I could go through this snowflake and then put a bead on it. Ooh, am I going to make it through the snowflake? Yeah. Put a little bead on the top of it and then go back down to hold it in. But I think what I'm going to do is just a little bit of a French knot on there with just maybe like three wraps of the thread. Whoops. So 1, 2, 3. Don't pull it tight. Trying to find the hole in the sequin. There we go. And those holes just barely fit my needle, which is probably good because that means that the French knot will do a good job of holding it on there. Alrighty. So that looks like that. And then I am just going to knot it off instead of going all the way across to try and get to the next one. So just put a quick knot in it, and then I usually cut my tails just a little bit long so that I know that they're not going to like unravel, especially with like the French knots. You don't want it to pull back out of there. I'm just kind of looking at the corner of my felt there, or whatever that is, fleece, to hopefully gauge that I'm in the right spot. And that does look good. So I think we did 3, 1, 2, 3. Hold on to the thread. And I think I might have lost it. Maybe not. Trying to find the hole of the sequin is not as easy. I got to put my glasses on. Okay, you'd think I would, you know, do that ahead of time. Oh, did I rip it? Yep, it has a little bit of a rip in it. So I am going to grab just a touch of glue. Do I have a toothpick here? I'm going to put just a little bit of glue underneath of it. if I can get a toothpick out of this toothpick carrier thing. Well, I'm going to take the top off. Can't do that either, hardly. Okay, so I'll put a little glue on it. That will hold it on so it's not going to fall off. And makes it a little quicker. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right there on the fabric. And a little bit on the back of the sequin. And that should be just fine. Because there's no point in throwing away if it's still going to work. Okay, so now let's do 3 wraps. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Hold the thread. Find the hole in the sequin. And pull it through. And there we go. That worked too. Alrighty, so just a couple more of those. If they don't take as long as that second one did, we'll be out of here just shortly. Let's see. When does this video come out? On the 14th, next week, next Tuesday. So we're getting very close to Christmas. And I hope that you all do have a wonderful Christmas. I'm not exactly sure even what we're doing yet for Christmas. But we will have a Christmas tree this year. I told my husband, no matter what, there's going to be a Christmas tree this year. Last year was the first year that we ever didn't have a Christmas tree. And it was very different. And for me, a little bit depressing. I love to watch the lights and turn the lights on. All right, do this again. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm an early riser. I get up around 4 or 5 o'clock because I can't sleep. And so I love to get up in the morning and stoke up the fire and turn on the Christmas lights, and just the Christmas lights, and just sit and have a cup of coffee and relax. It's my most favorite thing to do. So we will definitely be doing that this year. Alrighty, one more to go. And then the others will be real quick because I'm just going to stitch them down one right after the other. I'm not going to put French knots on the little chain part. I'm going to use the gold color embroidery floss. Mostly because that's what I have. And I thought it would look pretty. All right, so get this one on here. 1, 2, 3 wraps. Hold the thread. It's kind of like the needle and the sequin both shine, so it's really hard to find like the point of the needle and the hole of the sequin at the same time. There we go. Hopefully this one works out since it's our last one. And yay, it did. Except I think, no, it did. I thought it got caught around one of the little things. So there we go. And that just gives it a little extra pizzazz too. And of course, you know, it's a card, but it is something that they can keep. Or it's something you could make a little bit smaller. And then make it so they could put it on a Christmas tree. That would be really pretty. Just put a piece of fabric on the back to cover up all the stitches when you're done. And that would be really pretty. All right, so I'm going to come up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this should be the middle. Right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that's our middle. And, ooh, I wonder if it will go through these sequins or not. We'll see. Just go up through this sequin. Whoops. And then down through the next one. And they're going to stay wherever you put the thread through at. Okay, so then I'm going to go up just a little bit. Try and find the hole. Oh, come on. Well, we know I don't do fiddly well. There we go. There we go. Put another one on there. Then I have to decide, do I want one more or do I want to stop here? And this one moved up because the yarn pulled it. I should have sewn them down. I should have sewn it down individually. And I think I'll just go ahead. Maybe I'll just go ahead and come right back up through there. Whoops, I have to go through the sequin. Okay, now put it where I want it. Put that one where I want it. And then put, whoops. Hopefully that will pull it back where I want it to be, and it did. Okay, so there we go. I don't think there's really room to put one more at the top, so I'm going to call that good. After I get it all put together, I probably will go in and put just a touch of glue underneath each one of those also. Then we'll know they're going to stay where they're supposed to stay. Now they do make spray glues that you can spray on there and, you know, hold the whole thing down. But I think I'm just going to use a little bit of Fabri-Tac. And if you're afraid that your glue is going to soak through your fabric, you can also always go through and like put glue behind each of these corners where it will hide if it soaks through your fabric. So I don't think that the Fabri-Tac is going to soak through all of this. So I'm not super worried about it. But I also want to kind of grab each of these threads that are, because then I know they're not going to come out. So just kind of go in there and put a little bit of glue on those. And then just go around the sides. I'm not going out to the fabric since this fleece, look at that sticky stuff. Since the fleece is so close to the edge of the fabric, I'm only going to put it on the fleece, and then the fabric will kind of be puffed off just a little bit. It won't look so flat. Right, now one thing, always make sure when you're making a card, make sure that you know, and I want this one to open this way, because I think that because we've got a little weight to this ornament, to this little stitching patch, I think it will stand up better that way than the other way. So there we go, a slow stitch Christmas card. And it is something that somebody can keep and put up on their mantle every year if they want to. So, but what I was saying was, I think that because we've got a lot of weight to it, it will stand up this way better versus this way. I think this way it will tend to really, especially after a while, it will just want to do that. So, that's why I did it this way, because it has the strength of this spine standing up and down to help it stay standing up. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope if you make one that you have a really good time, or just try the slow stitching. It really is a blast. Thanks again for stopping by. I really do appreciate you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.